Okay. I'm Mike Conway. We're here with my mom, Genny, and we're going to talk about your mother today.
Okay.
Okay. So what was her name?
Her name was Ethel Parker.
Ethel Parker.
And she had a brother, but she was the fair-haired child. And whatever she wanted, she pretty well got. And they sent her to a private school when she was in high school. And then she married a man by the name of Horace Nugent. And he had a piano store. I don't know how she met him because he was from Chicago. He had a piano store. And so my mother married him. And they lived in Chicago for 10 years. And she was pregnant with my older sister when he died. Oh. So then she came back to Cincinnati and she stayed with her two aunts and her mother. And they kind of took care of her. And then while she was pregnant, she met my dad. And my dad just fell in love with her.
Oh.
So after my sister was born, she married my dad, and he adopted my sister. And
that's Rosemary.
Rosemary. And then my dad was in the meat business, and so that's all I know.
Well, now your dad had the meat business in Cincinnati.
Right.
So she must have moved back to Cincinnati.
She moved back to Cincinnati after her husband died and stayed with her two aunts and her mother. The mother and the two aunts lived together, all three of them.
Oh.
And she came back and stayed with them because she didn't have anybody in Chicago. So she stayed with them.
Okay.
And then she met my dad. I don't know how, but she met my dad. And after my sister was born, she married him. And then she stayed in Cincinnati.
And you had another sister.
Then I had another sister. She was 3 years younger than my older sister. And then
Dorothy. Dorothy was the second. Rosemary, the oldest one, then Dorothy.
And then me.
And
I was 5 years younger than my second sister. So Rosemary was 8 years older than me, and Dorothy was 5 years older than me. Okay. And I was the youngest.
So. And you lived in Cincinnati after that.
Right. We all lived in Cincinnati. And my mother wanted us to go to Catholic school. So she took us to, what was the name of it? St. Boniface Church. First she took us to St. Patrick's Church. In those days, you either went to the German church or the Irish church. They were very segregated.
Or the Italian.
Or the Italian.
Whatever.
Right.
Lithuanian.
Right. Yeah. And they were very segregated. And she started out at the Irish church, and my sister didn't like it very well, so she changed her to the German church. And then, for some reason, she didn't like that very well either. So she decided that we should all go to Price Hill, where my two aunts and my grandmother lived.
Oh.
And so we would stay with my two aunts and my grandmother during the week and only come home on weekends.
When you were in grade school?
When we were in grade school. All through grade school.
Okay. So that's you and Rose and Dot, all three of you.
We all went. Of course, because of the age difference, like Rosemary was out of school when I was in school, and Dot was only in school for a while when I was there.
All right.
But we all lived with my aunts during the week, and then we'd go home on the weekend.
Okay. Now, where'd you go to grade school?
St. Williams.
Okay.
We all went to St. Williams.
All of you went?
All went to St. Williams.
Now, what were your aunts' names?
Well, her name was Genevieve, but they called her Viva. My other aunt was Lucille.
Okay.
And they were my great aunts. But they were wonderful. They were so good to us. And they would, my Aunt Viva she was a great seamstress. And she made doll clothes and all those kind of things for us. She was a really good cook. And my other aunt worked. She went out to work. And she she would help us with homework at night. And then if we got our homework done well, she would pop popcorn. Or sometimes on Friday night, she'd make fudge.
Oh.
And then we had 2 rabbits, Cleopatra and Sebastian. and they kept them in a little box upstairs in the room, and that was our pet. Those were our pets, the 2 rabbits. It was an interesting time.
Now, okay, so you said they were your great aunts, so they were what?
My mother's aunts. My grandmother's sisters.
Your grandmother's sisters, and they never married?
Never. Well, no. My one aunt married, but she didn't like marriage very well, so she left.
Oh.
And she went back home and never went back to her husband. And they were only married a short time.
Now, which one was that?
Lucille.
Lucille.
She's the one that worked.
Okay. So she liked working, but she didn't like married life.
Right,
huh?
she didn't like married life.
Oh, be darned.
So,
now, were those the only sisters your grandmother had?
No, my grandmother had... She had a sister that was a nun, and she had, I think she had 7 sisters.
Oh, my God.
2 or 3 brothers. It was quite a family.
You don't have any contact with any of them anymore, though?
Well, no, I never did know them. They were all gone when I, But my Aunt Louise, Aunt Louie, they called her. She was a nun. She was a charity nun, and she was out at Mount St. Joe.
Oh, okay. Now, what about? I'm trying to think of your grandmother's name. Was Parker?
Parker.
That was her married name.
That was her married name.
Okay. Her
maiden name was Langelier.
Oh, okay.
Langelier, and they said that he was my great grandfather, Langelier, was knighted by the king, and I don't know if that's
France.
True.
Probably, yeah.
And I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what they always said. Of course, I can tell you I'm a millionaire, and that doesn't make it right.
I believe it. So, okay, so then I guess all 3 of you also went to Mount St. Joe for high school.
Right. We all went to Mount St. Joe.
So you would stay at the school during the week and then go live with your
my
aunts?
mother and dad on weekends.
Oh, with your mother and dad.
Yeah.
Okay.
My mother was very social. She was not a nurturing mother. She liked her social life.
Yeah.
And as a result, we just stayed with my 2 aunts who were very nurturing. So it worked out really well.
All right.
All of it. Everybody was happy. So that worked out well.
Oh, that's great.
And my dad worked about 12 hours a day, so we hardly ever saw my dad. And the biggest thrill from him was when on Sunday we'd go to church and then he'd take us for a milkshake.
Oh.
It was a big deal. Every Sunday we would do that.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
So now, what did your mother do every day?
Played cards mostly.
Yeah.
Mostly. She was very social. She belonged to the. She had a very good voice, and she belonged to some kind of a music club. And she was very good on the piano. If you would play a song to her, she could sit down and play it on the piano. She couldn't read a note, but she was fabulous on the piano.
By ear.
By ear. She really had a talent for that.
That's really neat.
And she was very social. Everybody loved her, except for my daughter.
Well, that's the way it is.
I guess.
I remember her.
You remember her.
Growing up, of course. And
she loved you boys.
Oh, yeah.
She loved her 3 grandsons.
And she lived with Rosemary
Right.
and later in life, right?
Well, my father had a heart attack and died when he was 60.
That's my age. That's scary.
And my mother said, I will never go back in the house. So she never went back into that house after my father died. She told Rosemary, I'm going to live with you. She didn't even ask her. She just told her.
Wow.
So she went to live with my mother.
Well, we're out of time today.
Okay.
Okay, so the next time we'll get together, we'll do another
Okay.
session and we'll talk about something else.
Okay, that sounds good.
All right. Thanks, Mom.
You're welcome.